The silence behind her eyesight was past midnight in a quiet corner of Paris. A soft rain touched the cobblestone streets. Street lamps flickered gently, casting golden reflections on the wet ground. Keanu Reeves sat at a small wooden table outside a closed cafe, sipping from a cold cup of coffee he had long forgotten to drink. He wasn't supposed to be there. Not in that moment. Not in that city. Something had pulled him there. Something quiet. Something unspoken. Just a few feet away, Ana de Armas stood silently in front of a closed bookstore. She wore a long beige coat and held her hands in her pockets. Her eyes were fixed on the dusty glass window, but she wasn't reading the titles. She was searching for something deeper, something no book could offer. Keanu had noticed her earlier that day on set. She had smiled, she had laughed, she had said all the right things. But there was something off. Something hollow behind the smile, like her spirit was somewhere far away. He didn't ask her about it, not then, not yet. But now, watching her under the soft glow of the street lamp, he saw it again, the sadness behind her eyes. The kind of sadness that doesn't scream, it whispers. Ana turned suddenly and began walking down the street, away from the bookstore. She didn't look back. Keanu hesitated for a moment. Then he stood, tossed a few coins on the table, and quietly followed her. He didn't want to intrude, didn't want to make her uncomfortable. But something told him this night mattered. Ana walked slowly, her steps soft, as if she didn't want to disturb the city. She crossed a bridge, past a park, and finally stopped in front of a small building. It looked old and tired, with peeling paint and a dim porch light. She opened the gate, stepped inside, and sat on a wooden bench in the yard. Keanu stayed hidden in the shadows of the trees. He didn't know what he was waiting for. He only knew he couldn't leave. After a few minutes, Ana took a photo from her coat pocket. She stared at it for a long time. Her lips moved softly, as if whispering to someone who wasn't there. Keanu stepped forward, quietly, slowly, and then, without making a sound, he sat down on the ground behind the fence. He could barely see her, but he didn't need to. Ana's voice floated through the night. "I miss you every day," she said. "I thought it would get easier, but it hasn't." There was silence. "I don't tell anyone because they all think I've moved on. But I haven't." Keanu's chest tightened. Ana continued, her voice shaky. "Sometimes I feel like I'm living two lives, the one they see, and the one I carry inside." Keanu closed his eyes. He knew that feeling. He'd lived it. Just then, Ana stood up and walked toward the tree near the bench. She touched the bark gently and placed the photo inside a small hollow. It was an old photo of a young boy, smiling. "He was my brother," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. "He died 2 years ago. Heart failure. He was only 16. Keanu felt something shift inside him. A quiet ache. Ana sat back down, wrapped her arms around herself, and looked up at the stars. He wanted to be a writer. He used to say that. Stories could fix people. Keanu finally stepped out from the shadows. He didn't speak. He didn't want to startle her. Ana looked at him, surprised but not afraid. Maybe she already knew he was there. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked gently. "Long enough," he replied, his voice soft. "Crossed a line." Ana shook her head. "You didn't?" I'm glad you came." They sat in silence for a moment. Keanu finally said, "You were right about your brother. Stories can fix people. Sometimes they're the only thing that can." Ana looked down. "I haven't told anyone about him." "Not really. Not even my parents." "Why not?" Keanu asked. "Because... ... If I say it out loud, it becomes too real. And then I have to accept that he's really gone." Keanu nodded slowly. "I know that pain." She looked at him. "You do?" Keanu looked into her eyes, and for the first time that night, she saw something in his. Something raw, something human. "I lost someone too," he said. "Many years ago, my daughter. She never made it, and then her mother. A car accident." Didn't speak. She just stared at him, her eyes wide, full of shock and sorrow. I learned to live with it, he said. But I never stopped feeling it. Anna reached across the bench and took his hand. Her touch was warm. Real. They sat like that. Two souls connected by invisible threads of loss and love. A dog barked in the distance. The wind picked up. But inside that little yard, time slowed. Anna said, I think I need to talk about him more. Maybe even write about him, maybe. Tell a story. Keanu smiled softly. I'll help you, if you want. Anna looked at him with something new in her eyes light. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded, and for the first time in 2 years, Anna smiled, not the one she wore for cameras, but the one she had forgotten she still had. Keanu stood, offered her his hand. She took it. They walked back toward the city together, their steps slow, quiet. But sure, neither of them knew where this new path would lead, but they both knew something had changed, and it began with a quiet moment and a story, waiting to be told. The story she never told. Next morning, the Paris sky was a pale silver. Clouds drifted slowly, like they had nowhere to be. The city was waking up, coffee brewing, bicycles rattling over stones, and soft footsteps echoing through the alleys. Inside a quiet hotel room, Keanu Reeves sat by the window with a notebook open on his lap. The pages were mostly blank, but one sentence stood alone in the center. He wanted to be a writer. Used to say stories could fix people. Keanu stared at those words for a long time. He could still hear Anna's voice when she said them. Something about her sadness had stayed with him. Something honest. Something rare. He didn't know why he felt so drawn to help her, but he couldn't ignore it. Maybe because he had once needed someone to, and no one had come. A knock at the door broke the silence. Keanu opened it to find Anna standing there, holding a small leather journal in her hands. Her eyes were puffy, like she hadn't slept. I come in? She asked softly. Keanu stepped aside. Of course. Anna walked in slowly, as if unsure of herself. She placed the journal on the table and sat on the edge of the couch. I wrote something, she said. Last night, after you left. Keanu nodded. Can I read it? Anna hesitated, then pushed the journal toward him. Just be honest. He opened it gently. The handwriting was neat, but filled with emotion. It wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be, he began to read. It was a letter to her brother, raw, full of memories. She talked about their late-night talks, the way he used to stay up drawing comic book characters, the time they got caught in a storm and danced in the rain like fools. She wrote about the silence after he was gone, how the world kept turning. But her heart had stopped. When Keanu finished reading, he looked up at her. This ... is beautiful. Anna looked down. I don't know, it felt like bleeding on paper. That's why it's beautiful. Anna took a deep breath. I want to write more, but I don't know how to start. Keanu smiled gently. You already started. They spent the next hour talking, not like actors or celebrities, just like two people trying to make sense of the world. Anna asked Keanu about his daughter, about how he got through the pain. I didn't, he said. Not completely. But I learned to carry it. Anna nodded. Sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending. Like I smile because it's expected. It's okay to pretend, Keanu said. But don't forget who you are underneath. They decided to go for a walk. The city felt softer that day. Children played in the park. Pigeons pecked at breadcrumbs. And somewhere nearby, someone played a slow violin tune. They found a small cafe near the river and sat by the window. Anna brought out her journal again. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything? Why did you follow me that night? Keanu paused, because ... You looked like you were carrying a storm. And I've been there. Anna looked out the window. I don't talk about him much. People say the usual things. He's in a better place. Time will heal, but none of it helps. I know, Keanu said. Sometimes all you need is someone to sit with you in the silence. Anna smiled. It's exactly what you did. A waiter approached with 2 coffees and a plate of buttered croissants. They thanked him and began to eat. As they sipped their drinks, Keanu said, "What I F? We told his story together?" Ana blinked. "You mean write it?" "Yes, not for the world. Just for you. For him. And maybe for someone else who needs it." Ana's eyes began to water again, but this time the tears were softer. Lighter. "I'd like that," she said. They returned to the hotel with a quiet mission. Not to make something perfect. Not to impress anyone. Just to honor a boy who loved words. Keanu brought out his old typewriter, the one he always carried when filming in Europe. Ana opened her journal again. They started with a single line. His name was Lucas. He believed stories could fix people. Maybe he was right. Ana read the words out loud. Her voice trembled at first, then grew stronger. They spent the next 3 hours writing memories. Letters, dreams, little stories he used to tell. They laughed when they remembered his strange obsession with superheroes who wore mismatched socks. They cried when she described his last birthday, spent in a hospital bed. But through it all, they kept going as the sun began to set. Casting long shadows through the room, Ana leaned back in her chair and said, "I feel ... lighter." Keanu nodded. "You gave your pain a voice." "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For listening. For staying." Keanu looked at her, and in her eyes he saw something shift. Something healed. He stood and walked toward the window. The sky outside was turning orange and gold. "Can I tell you something strange?" Ana said from behind him. "Of course. Last night, when you followed me, ... I think he sent you, Lucas. I know it sounds silly." Keanu turned to her, his face gentle. "It doesn't sound silly at all." Ana smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "Maybe he was right," she said. "Maybe stories really can fix people." Keanu nodded. "They can, especially the ones written with love." Outside, the city lights began to glow. Life moved on, as it always did. But inside that room, something sacred had begun. Not a book, not a movie, not a performance. Healing, two hearts finding strength in silence and in story. The pages between the next few days passed gently, like the soft unfolding of a flower. Ana and Keanu met every morning at the same small cafe near the river. They would sit at the corner table, her journal between them, a notebook in his hands, and the quiet rhythm of Paris moving around them. They weren't writing a book. They were writing pieces of a soul. Ana had started dreaming about Lucas again. Not the painful dreams where she watched him fade, but ones filled with laughter. Late-night snacks, and the two of them playing with his old action figures on the living room floor. She'd wake up with tears in her eyes, but they were different. Now, dashed gentler. On the 4th day, Ana brought something with her. A small, old voice recorder. "He used to make stories on this," she said, smiling faintly. "He'd record them in his room, add music, even do the voices." Keanu held it carefully, as if it were something sacred. "Can we listen?" Ana nodded. She pressed play. A young boy's voice filled the air, full of energy and wonder. "Hello? Future world. This is Lucas, age 14, and I have a story for you. It's called The Moon That Cried." Ana and Keanu listened in silence as Lucas told a short, strange, beautiful story about a moon that watched the earth but felt lonely. The moon cried silver tears that fell into the oceans and gave people dreams. When the recording ended, Ana wiped her eyes. He was so full of imagination, Keanu said nothing for a moment. Then he whispered, "You should share this, not just with me, with others." Ana looked uncertain. "I don't know. What if people don't understand?" "They will," Keanu said. "Maybe not everyone, but someone will. Someone out there is lonely too. Maybe Lucas's words will help them feel seen." Ana looked down at the recorder, her fingers trembling just a little. Then she nodded. The next day, they went to a small recording studio that a friend of Keanu's owned. Ana sat in the booth with headphones on. She read one of Lucas's stories into the microphone, her voice clear, her heart full. Outside the booth, Keanu watched her. He saw something happen in real time, a kind of transformation. The pain didn't disappear, but it shifted. It turned into purpose. When she stepped out of the booth, she said, "I want to do this. Really do this. Not as a tribute, but as a way forward." Keanu smiled. "Then we'll do it together." He began to plan a podcast. 8 short stories. Maybe even an animation one day. They'd call it Lucas's Light. Keanu offered to help with everything: editing, voice work, even producing. He didn't want credit, didn't want attention. He just wanted to honor the boy who believed stories could fix people, and slowly, something else began to grow between them. One evening, as they walked along the river, Anna said, "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were this mysterious man with a quiet sadness. Now I see. You're someone who listens." Keanu looked at her gently. "Sometimes listening is the only thing that keeps me grounded." They stopped at the bridge where they first passed each other in silence. Anna leaned on the railing. "I used to feel like I was living behind glass," she said. "Like the world was moving, but I was stuck in one moment. Now, it's different." Keanu asked softly. "What changed?" She looked at him. "You followed me." They stood there for a long time, just watching the water below. But the next morning, things shifted. Anna didn't show up at the cafe. Keanu waited an hour, then another. He tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Worry crept in. He walked to her hotel. The receptionist told him she had checked out early in the morning. Without a word, confused and concerned, Keanu returned to his room. There was no message, no clue, only silence. On the table, the leather journal was gone. He sat down, trying to make sense of it. Had he pushed too hard? Was she scared? Had the memories become too heavy again? That night, he walked to the bench where she had placed Lucas's photo. The photo was gone. But in its place was a note, folded, held in place by a small stone. He opened it slowly. "I need time. I thought I was ready, but maybe I'm not. Please don't think you failed me. You didn't. You gave me hope. I need to find my own voice now. If it's meant to be, I'll find my way back. Thank you for following me that night. It changed everything." Anna. Keanu stood there for a long time, holding the note. He felt sadness, yes, but also something deeper. Peace, because sometimes kindness doesn't mean holding on. It means letting someone find their wings. And he knew. Wherever Anna went, Lucas would go with her. His voice, his light, and maybe, just maybe, she would return. But even if she didn't, she had already taken the first step, and Keanu had helped her take it. Echoes in the quiet weeks passed. The cafes felt colder. The wind in Paris had sharpened. The river moved slower, and the leaves had started to fall. Reeves still visited the same bench every evening, the one where Anna had left her brother's photo, the one where she had once spoken to the stars. He would sit there quietly. No phone, no book, just silence. People came and went. Lovers laughed, artists sketched, children tossed breadcrumbs to birds. But Keanu remained still, always hoping, though he never admitted it. Anna hadn't returned. Her phone stayed off. The podcast plans were paused. Her journal, which once rested on his table, was now gone. But he didn't feel abandoned. Not truly. He understood grief in ways few people did. Sometimes healing required distance. Sometimes love meant letting go. But something still lingered inside him, a quiet ache. Not of loss, but of uncertainty. Had she found peace? Had she kept writing? Had she remembered the kindness they had shared? Then one morning, a package arrived at his hotel. No return address, no note. Just his name, written in small, familiar handwriting. Keanu opened it carefully. Inside was a hardbound book, simple in design. The title on the cover was handwritten, Lucas's Light, Stories from the Boy Who Loved the Moon. His hands trembled slightly as he turned the first page. The dedication read, "For the one who followed me into the dark and waited there without asking questions." His chest tightened. Each story inside had been written by Anna based on Lucas's voice recordings. their shared memories and fragments of her own pain. It was raw and beautiful, full of quiet laughter and deep truths. Every page whispered. Healing Keanu read the entire book in one sitting, tears silently falling down his cheeks more than once. When he closed the last page, he knew. She had found her voice, and she had chosen to share it. Later that day, Keanu walked back to the studio they had visited weeks earlier, spoke to the sound engineer, and asked for one favor. "I want to record." "Something," he said. He sat in the recording booth. He placed the headphones over his ears and pressed the button. His voice was soft but steady. "To Lucas, I never met you, but through your sister I feel like I did. Thank you for reminding me what stories can do. Thank you. Thank you for bringing light into a world that often forgets how to see it." He paused, then added, "And to Anna, thank you for trusting me with your silence." He ended the recording there. He didn't send it. Not yet. He didn't even know where she was. But a few days later, another envelope arrived. This time, inside was a photo. It was a snapshot of a tiny classroom in a rural village, somewhere far from France. Children sat in a circle, wide-eyed, smiling, listening to a woman read from a book. The woman was Anna. On the back of the photo, a short message was written. "I'm sharing Lucas with the world now. Not on a screen, but in hearts. Thank you for showing me how to begin." Keanu held the photo for a long time. He looked out the window and smiled. Somewhere far away, she was reading stories to children, laughing again, healing others the way. She had once needed to be healed, and somehow felt Lucas in all of it. Later that night, Keanu walked along the river once more. This time, not waiting, not hoping, just walking. He passed the bench. It was empty now, but in his heart, he knew something sacred had happened there, something that could never be undone. And then, just as he reached the bridge, he heard it. A soft voice behind him. "You didn't think I'd let you have all the quiet walks, did you?" He turned. Anna stood there, hair tied back, coat dusted with the wind, and in her hands. "The journal. How did you?" Keanu started. "Paris pulls me back when I need it most," she smiled. They walked side by side, just like before. "No rush. No need to fill the silence." After a while, Keanu asked, "What made you come back?" Anna looked at him. "I was ready to say goodbye," she said. "But I wasn't ready to say goodbye to you." He stopped walking. "Too." River sparkled under the moonlight. "I don't want to be someone who disappears," she added softly. "You're not," Keanu said. "You're someone who returns stronger." Anna looked at him, and this time there was no sadness behind her eyes, only peace. "Do you want to walk a little longer?" she asked. "As long as it takes," he said, and together they kept walking, not toward an ending, but toward whatever came next. The night the stars answered wind that evening was softer than usual. It moved through the trees like a lullaby, brushing against the old buildings and skipping across the river's surface. Paris had become quieter now, and so had they on Anna. And Keanu walked side by side, not needing to speak much. Words had once carried their pain, but now their silence carried something gentler, understanding, warmth, a shared healing. They stopped at a small rooftop garden, hidden above an old art gallery. It was one of Keanu's secret places. No one else was there, just the two of them and the city lights far below. Candles flickered near the plants, casting a warm glow. Anna sat on a wooden bench and pulled her knees close. She looked up at the sky. "I used to stare at the stars when Lucas was sick. I thought, maybe if I stared long enough, someone up there would help him." Keanu sat beside her. "Did you ever feel like they answered?" "Not then," she said quietly. "But now, maybe they did. Just not the way I expected." She took out her journal again. It's the same one she had left with Keanu weeks ago, now. Filled with new pages. "I've been writing every night since I left," she said. "Not just stories about Lucas. Stories about people I've met, the kids in that village, the mothers who've lost children, fathers who came home from war and didn't know how to hold their own babies. I think maybe Lucas wanted more. Then his own story told. Yeah, maybe he wanted me to keep telling all the quiet ones. Keanu nodded. Maybe that's your gift. Anna looked at him. And what about you? What's your gift? Keanu leaned back, eyes on the stars. Maybe. Being still long enough for others to find theirs. They sat there a while longer, wrapped in candlelight and quiet. Then Anna said something unexpected. Do you ever wonder why we met? Why that night happened the way it did? Keanu smiled faintly. Every day. What if it wasn't a coincidence? She asked. What if ... Lucas really did send you? Keanu didn't laugh or question her. He just looked at her with eyes. That had seemed too much to doubt quiet miracles. I think he did, Keanu said. Anna's eyes filled with tears. But she didn't cry this time. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out something smaller silver pendant on a thin chain. Inside the pendant was a tiny photo of Lucas, smiling wide. I had 2 made, she said. One for me, one for the person who kept his light alive. She placed it in Keanu's hand. Keanu didn't know what to say, simply closed his fingers around it and nodded, deeply moved. Thank you, he whispered. Anna looked at him, her voice soft but sure. We're not just actors playing roles, are we? No, Keanu said. We're just people, trying to love, to forgive, to hold on. Anna stood and walked to the edge of the rooftop, where the city stretched out endlessly before her. I want to do something, she said, for Lucas. For all the others who are still lost? What is it? Keanu asked. A foundation, she said. For young storytellers, especially the ones who feel invisible. We'll help them write, speak, dream. Keanu rose from the bench and stood beside her. I'll help, he said without hesitation. You always do, she smiled as the night deepened. A single shooting star crossed the sky. Anna saw it and whispered that was for him. Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder. And maybe for you too. They left the rooftop in silence, but their steps were stronger now. Filled with direction, back at the hotel, Anna placed her journal on the desk and opened it to a blank page. Keanu sat nearby, watching as she wrote the first line of a new story. Sometimes, the person who saves you doesn't speak loud. Sometimes they just follow you into the dark. She turned to him. You want to write the next line? Keanu smiled. No, he said. Anna closed the journal, leaned back in her chair and said, I think. I'm not afraid anymore. Keanu looked at her, a calm expression on his face. Good, he said. Because the world needs your voice. She smiled, and maybe... I needed yours. Outside, the stars kept watch. Inside, 2 souls continued to heal 1 word at a time. The story that never really ended a full month had passed since Anna returned to Paris. A quiet month, a healing one. The air had changed, less weight in her breath, more hope in her step. The foundation they started was real now. Lucas's light. It was a name that had once lived in pain. Now, it lived in purpose. They rented a small studio near the canal-warm wood floors. Soft yellow walls, books stacked everywhere. The space filled quickly with young voices. Teenagers who had lost parents, children who had seen war, girls who had been silenced. Boys who didn't know how to cry. Anna sat with them every day, not as a celebrity, not as someone famous, just as someone who had once needed a story to survive. She taught them how to write letters they'd never send, how to turn a nightmare into a poem, how to give their pain a name so they could stop fearing it. And Keanu was always nearby. He never stood in the spotlight. He fixed broken chairs, brewed tea, brought pastries. He sat quietly in corners, listening to stories he didn't interrupt. He learned every child's name, and when one of them couldn't speak their story out loud, he handed them a recorder just like the one Lucas used, some evenings when the sun slipped low and the day was done. Anna and Keanu would sit by the river and read the stories the kids had written. Some made them laugh, some broke their hearts, but all of them mattered. One chilly evening, as the first signs of winter touched the air, Anna found something on her desk, a folded piece of paper. No signature. It simply said, because of your story, I didn't give up today. Anna pressed the note to her chest. Her hands shook, but her heart stood tall. That night, she and Keanu returned to the rooftop garden. One last time. The candles were still there, some melted low, some replaced. Paris glowed beneath them, golden and endless. Anna held her journal in her lap. "I think I've found what I was meant to do," she said. Keanu looked at her, his voice quiet. "Think Lucas knew it all along? Do you ever wonder," she asked, "if the people we lose still walk with us? Not as ghosts, not as memories, but as something deeper." Keanu didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I think they become the quiet voice that tells us to keep going when we're ready to give up." Anna closed her eyes. Then Lucas never left. Keanu gently reached into his coat pocket and took out the silver pendant. He held it up. It shimmered under the moonlight. "I wear it every day," he said. "Not for me, for the people I might meet. The ones still holding pain." Anna placed her hand over his. "You've helped more than you know." They sat in stillness for a while then, as if guided by something unseen. Anna opened her journal and tore out the last page. She walked to the edge of the rooftop and let the page fly. It floated through the night air, slow and soft, carried by wind and hope. What did it say? Keanu asked Dot and smiled. It said goodbye, looked at her gently. To Lucas? She shook her head. As to the girl who couldn't let go. Keanu stood beside her. Didn't say anything. He didn't need to. They walked back down together. Hands close but not quite touching. Two people forever changed by a boy with a silver voice and a love for stories in the days that followed. Lucas's light reached more people. Pax's. The foundation spread like quiet fire, warming hearts that had long gone cold, and though the world still turned heavy, still full of sorrow and noise, a small corner of it whispered. Something softer. That stories could fix people. That kindness didn't need permission. And that sometimes, all it took was one person quietly following someone outside to remind them they weren't alone.